Hey guys, my charger here. How's everybody doing tonight? So tonight I'm going to be telling my story of my 7-year-old Jillian and all about her life, which is pretty incredible. Something I've never experienced ever with another human. So Jillian is my daughter. She's 7, and so I had her at an older age. I had my first kids at 17 and 19, and then Jillian was born at 38. So quite a difference there. And I'm just going to start. So this story is unbelievable, but it is so very true. Let me know if you know, the music is too loud or whatever, but last time it wasn't, and this is even better. But anyway, so I was working at the Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center that I actually was a patient at previously. And I had a boyfriend, and we lived in this 4-bedroom house that we had got. I was getting really good money at the time. And my older girls, Colette and Holly, were living with me, and their boyfriends part-time, whatever. And I was actually getting ready to leave my boyfriend, and I would go to work, you know, get my scrubs on. I was a medical assistant there, and I was sick. I was getting sick, like sick as fuck. And I would try to drive to work. Anytime I got in the car, I'd have to pull over and throw up. And I was just like, what the fuck, you know? After a while, this went on for a few months. And I had been to my gynecologist before all this started, and she had told me that I was in premenopause, which was really crazy for me because I thought you were usually around like age 50, and I was in my late 30s. And I hadn't had a lot of periods. I had missed a lot of periods, and so I thought maybe the sickness was that. Like, maybe you get sick when you're going through premenopause, you know? And so anyways, I went to the doctors, and you know, I got like nausea medicine, I got vertigo medicine, and none of it really changed what was happening. Like, I would be in my office laying on the floor throwing up in the garbage can. Like, it was really severe. And I finally go to the doctor that I work with. So like, I would call him to get the prescriptions for my clients. So we knew each other. And I said, dude, you gotta find out what's wrong with me. Like, do every single test you can think of. Like, I can't live like this. I'm gonna lose my job. I am so sick. And it's been like 3-4 months, it felt like, at that time. And he did blood work, urine work, came back into the office and said, Missy, you are pregnant. And I mean, I think I gasped, you know. I was like, no fucking way, dude. Like, no fucking way. Because my reaction was that because when I had Poppy, who, for those of you who haven't been following and are new here, Poppy is my daughter that my abuser killed. And the night, trigger warning, the night that I brought her home from the hospital, he raped me. And I ended up hemorrhaging severely, and I ended up spending her first days of life on this earth in the hospital, trying not to die. And they were, you know, doing all these different things, procedures and medicines to try to stop the hemorrhaging. And eventually, I think it was like 4 days in the hospital, and they finally, hey Michael, they finally got the bleeding to stop. But it came with the price of, you know, I couldn't carry children again, and I couldn't conceive children again, which I was totally fine with. You know, I had already buried 2 children, and I had 2 older girls. I was good with not going through this again. So then when I go to the doctor and find out that I've been sick for 4 months, and I'm 4 fucking months pregnant, like 14 years after I was told I couldn't carry children. And also after I was told I was going through premenopause. So right there in itself, it was like really unbelievable and just shocked the hell out of me. You know, I didn't want to have another kid. I was so afraid of it from all of the trauma. But I also couldn't go through not having this child, like, because of other circumstances that are in my book. So I kept the child, you know, and it was a risk. It was a risk to carry this child for me. And I did a lot of bleeding in my 6th and 7th months of pregnancy. And so we thought for sure, you know, this just isn't, we knew I couldn't carry a child, but I did. I did carry a child. And I carried her over full time. She was facing up and she was up in my ribs. So she would have never been able to drop to put me in labor. She would have never broke my water. She would have never dropped. And so they scheduled a C-section, which I'd never had. And this is my 5th child at this point of having a child. And so they scheduled a C-section, and so my girls and I and my boyfriend at the time that I hadn't left yet went to the hospital at 5 a.m. for the C-section. And I'm freaked out. I'm terrified. You know, I don't like being put under. I don't like that at all. It scares me. And so they gave me whatever, the spinal medicine, and put that blue curtain up for those of you who have had a C-section. And I guess I was just flailing around and freaking out. And I actually hit one of the doctors who had like a scalpel in his hand. So they strapped my arms down and gave me more medicine. And I'm still freaking out. I don't have any recollection of any of this. Finally, they dose me enough to where I'm at least calm and I don't have any memory. Other than remembering that I felt like I couldn't breathe from the medicine. Like I was numb from here down to my toes, you know. And it was very scary for me. Breathing is a hard thing for me. I have emphysema. So, anyways, I remember nothing until I remember hearing my baby cry. And then I don't remember anything again for a while. So I go off to recovery, and baby goes to my daughters. They got to hold her and spend her first hour or two of her life with her. When I saw her for the first time, she was huge, huge. She was almost 9 pounds. I'm about 90 pounds. And the doctor told me she had to get up on the table and actually pull her out of my ribs. She thought she was going to have to break my ribs to get her out. So the baby didn't want to come out. And the baby shouldn't have been there. Like, she shouldn't have been able to have been conceived. She shouldn't have been able to have been carried. And she didn't want to be born. She wouldn't have ever been born had they not done a C-section. She would have died in there. So I have the baby, and she's huge. She doesn't fit in any of the newborn clothes we buy. We have to go buy all new clothes for her, because she was like, we always joked like she was 6 months old when she was born, and she had long hair. Her hair in our ultrasound pictures would flow in the amniotic fluid. Like she had long hair. It was just really insane. All of the circumstances around this were really unreal. And then I went through menopause, and never had a period again after that. I don't even have ovaries. Like, it was a miracle baby, and I don't know why I was so scared to have one after losing 2 and watching one's brutal death and, you know, burying her. I wasn't really into this, but I also wasn't into the guilt of not having her. You know, I felt like the circumstances are so unreal. There's got to be a reason, right? So I have my baby, and she was a very, very uncomfortable, fussy baby. Like she wasn't comfortable in her body, and she cried and cried and cried for the first several months. we had this fireplace in the middle of our downstairs, and you could walk all the way around through the kitchen, dining room, living room, stairway, hallway, and we would take turns like just doing this with her, walking around, because she just cried nonstop. It's like she just did not want to be out in the world. That's why she hid up in my ribs, I think. So anyways, I decide after she's maybe 9 months old, I was already going to leave my boyfriend before I found out I was pregnant, and I decided, I'm just ready. I'm done. I'm ready to leave him. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't anything like that. We just weren't cohesive. We just didn't get along well. And my older daughters had moved out to live with their boyfriends, and we had this huge 4-bedroom house, and so I moved out. And I went to go stay with my parents until I found a house. And she's, getting a little older. She turned 1. We had her birthday party. She's 1 year old, and she's got hair like as long as this. It's just insane. I've got pictures I'll have to post of her as a little one, because she doesn't look like a little one. So she talked early. She walked early. She crawled early. Everything she did was just like, what in the hell is going on? Like, this child is very different. She's very beautiful. Something is significant about this child, and she was exhausting because she was angry. She was angry the moment she was born into this world. So I'm looking for work again, because after my maternity leave, I didn't end up going back to the drug and alcohol rehab, and that's a whole story in itself, which is in my book. So I become an advocate for a domestic violence, sexual assault, and sex trafficking agency, and a caseworker. So my mom and dad watch her while I work, and I'm working all the time. Like, I go out on calls, like in the middle of the night. I go to work during the day and do case management with my caseload, and then I come home and I take care of my daughter. And after I worked for a month or two, I got into my own apartment with Jillian. And things started really changing, and her anger started getting really, really crazily out of control. Like, it was frightening. I'd never had an angry child. I also never had an only child. She wasn't an only child per se, but she was. It was just me and her. Her sisters were older and off doing their own thing, and she was having what I would call, hey Sarah. She was having what I called meltdowns, and sometimes they would last up to 9-10 hours of her just screaming in agony and moving her body in like strange ways, and then she became violent, and she's like 1.5, 2 years old. And I would take her to the doctor. I would video these meltdowns, because I was exhausted. I'd come home, and then it would be meltdown from the time I got home from work until I finally got her to fall asleep, or she fell asleep from exhausting herself. And I sent a video to her pediatrician, and her pediatrician said, it really looks like she's in a lot of pain. And I said, it does. But from what? Like, she would like kick her legs and just arch her back and just scream, and she would be out of control. And then from that would come the hitting things and breaking things, and it was frightening. And I could tell for her, even, she felt so out of control. But you got to keep in mind, she's little. She's a toddler. So I took her to many doctors. And at 2 years old, she was diagnosed with panic disorder. And I blame myself for that. I don't dwell on it. I'm changing it. I'm fixing it. But I have panic disorder. And with the loss of my 2 children before her, I wasn't raising Jill. I was trying to keep her alive. I was just trying to keep a human alive. And we were close, but her meltdowns and my PTSD, I always thought something was wrong with her. I checked her like every hour a night. You make sure she's breathing. As a toddler, even, not even just as an infant, take her temperature every time I got home, before I went to work, before bed. I was always asking her, does your tummy hurt? Does your head hurt? So I put that panic in her, not realizing, I'm in fight or flight. I have this new infant, this new child, and the last 2 I had were killed. And I was so afraid. I knew no one was going to kill her, but I was just so afraid of losing her, like I'd lost my other ones, that I was not well. And So one day, we're just playing, because this wasn't a constant, the meltdowns. They were more than not, though. And we even had the police called twice from her screaming so loud for so long. And thank goodness that the police were the police that I worked with in my job as advocacy. So, like, if someone was raped and the police were called on scene, they would call me or another advocate who was on call, and we would meet up with the police and then take the victim where they needed to go, hide them, whatever, and do case management. So I knew the officers that got called to our house twice, and I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is happening. I'm taking her to the doctor constantly. I'm doing the best I can, and so they were, nothing ever was opened or anything, because nothing was happening that was bad to her from me. Something was definitely happening within her. But it was intense. It was so intense. I didn't think I was going to make it. I was exhausted and mentally not well. And, when we had our laugh and fun and giggly times, it was amazing and great. But the other times were, they were very frightening for both of us. I would read up things, if a child throws a tantrum for longer than 10 minutes, it's not a tantrum, it's a problem. And like I said, we're talking 9-10 hours sometimes. She just couldn't communicate with me what was going on, because all she knew is she was uncomfortable. And then so one day I pick her up and we're playing, and I put her on the counter, and I'm right in front of her talking, and she's 2, and she said, "I'm a boy." And I was like, oh, it just kind of took me by surprise. She's 2. She hasn't been to school. She hasn't, we've not even talked about boys and girls. She's 2 years old. And I just kind of played it off as she's 2 and she's just kind of saying words, And if that's, my mind went to sexuality, and I'm like, no, 2-year-olds don't think that way. There's no way she could possibly know her gender, her choice at this point. So it confused me a little bit, but what do you do? I let it go. And then, we keep, COVID hit, and I lost my fucking mind because of my PTSD and worrying about losing her. That intensified that fear by a million. So I was washing my hands until they bled. I was bleaching everything. We were living in this underground apartment. And I was doing case management from home when COVID hit. So I would do all of my caseload, my therapy with my clients on the phone. And so Jill was around that, I said my words that were as light as could be, but sometimes she could hear the clients crying on the other line, and I would try to distract her and whatnot. It was so fucking hard. So her meltdowns got worse, and looking back, I know so much stress, even just from me. My work was stress, my life was stress, my fear of her dying was front and center all the time. I had not healed from the death of my 2 babies at all. I couldn't bear it. So I got sicker and sicker, mentally, with COVID, and my parents finally came over one day and said, you're done. You and Jill are moving in with us. They have property. You need fresh air. You need to get out of this apartment. You don't have to go out and be around people, because I fed into the fear, because of my PTSD. So I was one of those people. I was so scared of the virus and losing another child. So we moved in with my parents for just a couple months before Jill started getting fresh air. I got fresh air. We got calmed down. We calmed down. I did. She hadn't. She was just little. And then I got into my own house in the same town as my parents. So they were less than a mile away from me. So they could still help, because we're still having these meltdowns. I'm still working my ass off all the time, day and night, and trying to be this single mom, taking care of women who have trauma like I do, and then coming home to trauma. And it just felt so heavy. It felt so heavy. And still, doctors, me, nobody understood what in the hell was going on. She was so uncomfortable, and she was in pain, and nobody could figure it out. So we get into our new house, and we hadn't been in there for more than maybe a week. I'm standing in the kitchen doing the dishes, and she is sitting on the ground behind me with a little tray playing Play-Doh. And all of a sudden, Jill goes, "Mommy." And I said, "Yeah?" And she said, "Do you know why I'm here?" And I kind of was like, what, thinking maybe she meant like, how did she actually get here? Like from my tummy and all the things. And I just said, "No, baby, why?" And she said, "Poppy told me to get in your tummy." And my heart just started racing. I, at that point, didn't have pictures of Poppy up. I didn't talk about her much. I wasn't healed. I wasn't healing. And but I'm also thinking she's so little, I have to react appropriately. I can't like freak her out, because she was just playing Play-Doh, and she's like, "Poppy sent me." And I said, oh, really? Like, Poppy? And she goes, "Yeah. When I was deciding where to go, in what tummy to go in, Poppy came over from I don't know where and said, go in my mommy's tummy so she won't be alone." And that makes me tear up. And I was freaked out. Like, how did my maybe 3-year-old at the time, 2.5-year-old say this to me? How in the fuck did she, even if she'd heard Poppy's name, how would she know to say that Poppy told her to get in my tummy so I wouldn't be alone? Most toddlers are still drooling and, no real thought. This kid had thoughts that were adult at 2 years old. And it gets more and more intense. So after she says this to me, I just kind of smiled at her and said, "That was really nice of your sister." We hadn't really talked about her. And so I called my mom. I'm like, "Dude, Jill just said this to me. Like, what do I fucking do?" She was like, my mom's a very spiritual person now. And she's all, "Really, miss, all you can do is believe her." And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to believe my child that she knows her sister and that she chose to get into my stomach because Poppy told her I would be alone. And I didn't even think about things like that I do today, like past lives and all the things and the contracts. I had no education on my beliefs today. And so she said that, and then meltdowns, and then she'd say a few different things, and then meltdowns, and it just continued. And during the course of this time, my sister's husband passes away, and it's nothing like Poppy. Nobody saw it. It wasn't gory. It wasn't an impression that way. But it was a loss of someone that she loved dearly. Her uncle Leia. He was amazing. He had special time, like he would take her out to breakfast and just, paid a lot of attention to her, and she loved him so much. And I would find her after he died, sitting on the couch in the same spot every time, on the back of the couch, like the top, looking up and out the window, and I would hear this half of a conversation, and I would kind of try to listen, and she would come back all happy and say, "Leia just told me this." And I would say, "Are you talking to Leia?" And she's totally happy. "Yeah, he's out there. He's talking to me. He's making me laugh, Mommy." And this kept going on, her and Leia having these conversations almost daily. And then she would continue to talk about Poppy. And I'm just not understanding. I'm like, what is this little child that shouldn't have even been physically... I shouldn't have even been physically capable of having her in the first place. But she's here, and she's so different and so something I've never seen. And then I'm just telling you some very specific instances. There was another time, very shortly after, so she was 3, and I need to find the video. The reason I haven't is because going back on my Facebook right now is really hard because it's all collect, and I'm still grieving my oldest daughter, who just passed away 4 months ago. So for those of you who don't know me, I've lost 3 children. So that made me lose my train of thought. Oh, so she's playing out in the front yard one day, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm just watching her play out in the yard. And she runs in, and she's like, Mommy! And I'm at this point, like, my heart always skips a beat when I hear this, Mommy, because I know something intense is coming. And it was. I was like, what, Jill? She said, you know how you read me books? I said, yeah. Do you want me to read you a book? And she goes, no. She goes, but you know how the people in the books are really little? And I'm like thinking like on the pages, yes, like the pages, the pictures, yes, they're smaller than us. Yes, I understand what you're saying. She goes, well, there's littler books that the people in the books we read. And then there's littler people that read littler books, and so on and so on. She keeps saying this, and then she goes, and then there's bigger people that read books about us. And then there's bigger people that read books about them. And then she goes, it's a circle. And she tried to get down and run out. I said, hey, wait, come back here. I'm going, what? What are you talking about? But I didn't say that, but I said, can you explain that to me one more time, sweetheart? And I recorded it. And she explained it to me again. Life's a big circle. She was explaining quantum physics to me at 3 years old. And it was just unreal. All this stuff, and I'm still not thinking anything but like, what the fuck is happening? And then the first time I had a thought of maybe a mental health condition was she ran to the front door. It was quiet in the house. She ran to the front door and she turned around with her back to the door and faced me and covered her ears. And she was crying and she said, don't tell me to shut up, Mommy. And I hadn't said a word. I said, sweetheart, and I don't use that word. And the only other people she's around is my parents, and they don't use that word, especially with a 2 and 3 year old. I'm looking at her and I'm like, sweetheart, nobody said anything. I would never, ever tell you to shut up. And she cups her hands even harder and she's crying hard at this point. And she's like, stop talking. Please stop talking. Please stop yelling. And I'm just staring at her, and I get down kind of on my knees. I didn't know what to do. I tried to approach her and she just got more and more that I'm screaming at her. And there was no sounds in this house. So I'm like, do they diagnose schizophrenia at this age? My brain's going, this is too much. So not only does she have these crazy meltdowns where her body is so uncomfortable she can't control it, she's having conversations with her uncle who's no longer on this earth. She knows my daughter, her sister, who was born 10 years before she was born. And she knows about reincarnation somehow, and the circle, and quantum physics, and the smaller universes, and the bigger universes. Which back then when she told me, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have any of the knowledge of those things. So I was just freaking out. And so I ended up taking her up to a hospital that's 3 hours away. And we stayed a couple nights. And they were like, we can't really diagnose at this age. She's pretty young to know. Usually we just group any mental disorder with children into like ADHD. And I'm thinking my kid doesn't have ADHD. Like, I know she doesn't. So we tried different medicines, and I was so against it. But I was also so desperate to help her. And they didn't help anyways. None of them did. And what came after that was even more shocking. My 3-year-old started telling me she was going to kill herself. And I'm going, oh my God, I am going to lose another child. And why? Why did all this happen? Why did this miracle conception and birth happen? And all of the things to have her sitting here looking at me as a 3 and 4-year-old telling me she wants to die. And she doesn't want to be in this world anymore. She hates it. She hates it here. And I'm just like, and one night she said, she had a big meltdown, and I was putting her to bed, loving on her, all the things. And she said, I'm just going to go out to the road, Mom. And I said, what do you mean, Jill? Poppy was ran over by her father out on the road. And she said, I'm just going to die like Poppy. And I mean, I was mortified. I was like, what in the fuck am I dealing with here? You know, why does a kid this young have these thoughts and knowledge? And she's genius level. She's so intelligent. And so it was hard to parent her because it was almost as if she knew more how to parent herself than I did, you know. And so it was so hard. Another time I was taking her swimming. We were driving way far out into the mountain, or not the country, to this nice swimming hole that we have around here. I mean, not right around me, because it was an hour and a half drive. And it was quiet. I wasn't listening to music or anything. And she's like, Mommy, you know, that Mommy again. And my heart kind of skips a beat. I'm like, here we go again, you know. And she's all, can you hear that? And she was smiling. I could see her in her car seat in the rear view mirror. And
Mostly, you know, I'm like, I don't hear anything, sweetheart.
She's like, you don't hear Poppy singing? And I said, no, I really don't. I said, do you? And she goes, Mom, she's sitting right here. She's singing and she's so happy. And I said, I wish I could see her. You know, I miss my baby. And I tried to keep it together. And she goes, it's okay. It's okay. I can see her. And I can tell you she's happy. So you don't have to be sad. And remember, you're not alone. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, who is this child? And what is this child? You know, what is she? And then after that came all of these past lives she started talking about. She told me she used to be a father who had 6 children. She wore the same hat every day. She said, it's kind of like a cowboy hat, but not exactly. But I wore that hat every day. And my 6 kids and da-da-da-da-da. And then she told me, asked me if I remembered when she was my mom and I was her child. And I'm just like, holy fuck, dude, no, honey, I don't remember that, you know, but if as long as it's a good memory, I'm glad you remember these things, you know, that's amazing. And I started kind of looking things up, you know, about past lives and stuff, and I'm like, my child remembers her past lives. And she doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want to be on this earth for whatever happened to her, you know, or whatever her memories are. She doesn't want to be here so bad. She's trying to kill herself. Not trying to, but talking about it at this point. About dying all the time. I can't wait to die. I can't wait to go back. I don't want to be here. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. I mean, crazy, crazy shit. And I'm a mother in fight or flight, PTSD, working with trauma and trying to figure all this out and be a mom and manage. And I was so lost. And I even took her somewhere one time, and it was a park, like grass and, you know, just beautiful. And she stops dead in her tracks when we get out of the car, and she goes, this is not what this looked like. And I said, Jill, we've never been here. And she's like, well, I have, and that wasn't there, and there were no trees here. And she like described this whole area, and I was just like, wow, you know, like, wow. And I really started believing all of these things because there was a reason for her anger and her confusion and how fucking intelligent she is. You wouldn't believe my 7-year-old, she can pick up an encyclopedia and read it all to you and then also repeat it. You know, and she also has like this photographic memory. She's intense. She is very intense, and she is very sweet and very amazing. You know, as she gets older, she's definitely an empath. She definitely is very caring and loving and giving. She's very generous and a wonderful, wonderful little girl who is so uncomfortable in her body, her human body in this world, that still, every so often, the talk of dying comes up. And it terrifies me. She also sees what I call shadow people because she says they're black and tall like trees. and you can kind of see through them, and they come to try to kill her. And so I had her sleep with me for a few years, really, is what it, because she was terrified, she was uncomfortable, she didn't want to be here. But then on the flip side, she was here to help me, she was here to keep me, not being alone, and all the things, which, looking back, I just lost Colette. And I don't know that if I didn't have Jill, if I would have made it through this last one. My 27-year-old, my best friend. I just buried her 4 fucking months ago. So I thought she was saying I was alone because my kids were grown. But now I think she meant because they knew what was going to happen. That I was going to lose another child. So she comes to this world. She comes into my tummy. So I'm not alone. And she's miserable. Not all the time, but she is. There was one instance, and this was just 2 summers ago, where we were out in the garage and we were just talking, and she was getting angry, getting agitated. I could tell, I can always tell by her movements, something's coming on. She's feeling uncomfortable. And she starts climbing up this ladder, and I'm like, Jillian, you need to get down right now. You're scaring mommy, and you could fall. And she goes, it doesn't even matter. I'm already dead. I died when I was 5, and I'm at the bottom of a pond. And it just terrified me, I finally slowly got up the ladder and got a hold of her, because I thought she was going to jump. Like, that's what I thought she was doing, because she was telling me she was already dead at the bottom of a pond. So I don't know if she would get confused that she was in her old life sometimes, or if it was just strictly memories and they were haunting her, or what. But sometimes it felt like she actually was confused that she wasn't the old person that she was. And so when she said that to me, I took her back up to that hospital. And the doctor, her psychiatrist still sees her. He believed her. He believed that she had these memories. And he told me that kids usually lose these memories around age 5. Well, she's 5 at this point, and she still has them. Not today, but at that point. And I remember asking her one day about something about her kids when she was a dad, and she was like, what? And I mean, it was crazy, because she had talked about it for like 3 years. And I said, you said you were a dad, and you had 6 kids, and you always wore that one hat, and your kids liked the hat, and they tricked you and would take it off and hide it. And she's like, what? And she forgot. But she remembered some other things. She remembered being my mom, and she remembered some other lives she had talked about. And I said, okay, sweetheart, you may forget these, because what I just brought up to you have already forgotten. So it's very normal to forget. And she started panicking. She goes, I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget. Talk to me every day about this. Please, Mom, please. And so I did. I talked to her every day about all the things that she taught me and told me about herself. And she forgot. And it really irritates her. So I don't talk about it in front of her. Once in a great while, I'll bring it up to see if there's any memory there. But it's completely gone. All of that is completely gone. Except she still has the uncomfortable in her body feelings. We stopped giving her milk. We stopped giving her dyes. And that helped. But she still is very uncomfortable in her body. And she still talks about dying. Not so much anymore in the way of threatening, but in the way of what it sounds like to me is she knows it'll be relieving when she's no longer here, because whatever it is that's uncomfortable, it's this body and this earth this world, this human person that she is. She's uncomfortable as this person. And so I do everything I can, to help her be comfortable. And, we've done therapy, I'm really careful with therapy because, you get the wrong therapist with a little girl with this intense of emotions and being an empath and all the knowledge that she has and her genius, it could spiral her down so low. So I'm really careful with doctors and things with her. But anyways, that is my experience with Jillian in a nutshell. Like that is the story, really. I mean, unreal things, like my 2-year-old wanting to kill herself, my 2-year-old telling me she came to be with me because Poppy told her to, my 3-year-old telling me the circle of life, how talking about reincarnation, and then having conversations with her uncle who passed and her sister who she never met, who she did meet before she got in my tummy, she said. So essentially, since I've been learning all this stuff just within this last year or two, I'll see, a podcast or something on, people making contracts about their next life. And that's what she did. That's what she was telling me when she was 2 years old. When she was picking which tummy to get in as an infant, as a fetus, as an infant. She was signing her contract of what her experience on this life was going to be. And she told me that when she was 2. So, regardless to say, it's been unreal from conception to birth to now. Like, it's, I know this sounds crazy, but there's been times I've wondered, are you human? Are you what they call starseeds? What in the world? What are you, my sweet girl? She's incredible. She is so fucking smart. She's smarter than me. And she is such an empath, and I am too, so I'm working on her with that, because the moment someone has a tone that's off, she'll run away. She'll soak in that negative energy, and she can't take it. She literally cannot handle it. So every day we talk about, if someone has a different tone, it doesn't mean they're angry. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean anything but maybe they're tired. Maybe they're frustrated. I'm trying to just give her some logic around it. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to teach her boundaries on being such an empath, because she is more of an empath than I've ever seen besides myself. My energy gets drained so fast from other people's energy, and she's the same way. I mean, she'll say it because she's a child. She doesn't hold back. She's like, I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be sad. Let's leave. Let's go. There's too many sad people in this room, or whatever it may be. So me coming down out of fight or flight and finally becoming more grounded and healing and finding self-love is helping her become more grounded and heal and find, self-love isn't quite there yet. With her sister Colette passing away, that was her best friend too. It was the one in our family that paid the most attention to her, that really loved her the most. They were buddies. She meant everything to Colette, because Poppy died on Colette's 13th birthday. And Colette died from drug overdose because of all the fucking trauma. All the generational trauma in my family. The music. Anyways, so that's Jillian. That's my Jillian. And I do have fear, around her. I don't know. I've never met someone like her. I do know as she gets older, it's getting easier. She's becoming more comfortable and more verbal with telling me, I feel this way right now, instead of screaming, So there's a lot of progress being made, but I have no idea what's in store. I don't know. She kept her memories longer than most kids do. but they did go away. And, you know, she has seen videos of her talking about these things, and then she gets really angry that she forgot. And, you know, it's just, I just have to tell her that's just kind of the way it works. Some people do remember forever, but it's not a lot of people. And, you know, it's okay, Jill, it's okay. You know, one day we'll all be back where we belong in our own form, you know. And it's crazy that I can talk to her like this, because I can barely talk to my friends about this. But she gets it, because she knows it. She just knows it. She was born knowing. And even though she's forgotten her past lives, she still knows things about the universe. And it's really, really unreal. And like I said, I really do believe that she came not because I was alone at that time, but because she knew I was going to be alone when Colette died. So she's my little lifesaver, really, because it would have been easier to kill myself, you know, with my 25-year-old, because she has her own family, and I wouldn't have felt as much guilt. But which is horrible to say, because I don't want to leave any of my 2 children that I have left. But being responsible for an entity like Jill, and thinking about someone else trying to raise her with who she is, there's no way in hell I'm leaving this child alone.
Needs me. She needs
to understand her and believe her to the fullest that they can. And me being with her for 7 years, I can feel her, you know, and we have this bond that is incredible, and she really relies on me. And I do see borderline coming out in her. I hope I'm wrong, but she was raised by borderline, you know, and her uncomfortableness in her body, and then people's tones, those 2 things added together give her the ability to say, you know, I hate myself. People don't like me. I'm different. And she feels very different. And I try to tell her, you know, Joe, you're amazing. Everybody's different, and you're different is amazing and beautiful. Like, you came here and saved my life. You know, and I'm sorry you're so uncomfortable. I don't know how to help with that. Other than, you know, sometimes she'll let me hold her. Other times she doesn't want her skin touched. You know, she doesn't have autism. She doesn't have anything. She just doesn't. We've had her tested. She's just a different kind of a human. Or she just really knows a lot more than a lot of people know. And she breaks my fucking heart, you know? It makes me feel guilty that she chose to come to me to save me, and she's so uncomfortable being here. So I'm just doing the best I can every day, you know, to make her comfortable. And she has a racing mind, you know, and she gets scared if it's too quiet, because she thinks of these shadow people and that she sees, and she you know, I don't even really know what else more to say about this. This is my experience with my beautiful little Jillian. I mean, it shouldn't have been like biologically possible for her to be born. And it was. Jessica, really? He wishes to die too? So is that part of remembering? We are, Michael, we are. Like, we are so connected. And I hurt so much for her. And she hurts for me, which is the hard thing for me. You know, I don't want my 7-year-old hurting for me. But she does. It's who her little soul is. She is very gifted, and that is what I tell her. I said, you are such a miracle, Jill. You are going to do something. You have something to offer this world. Please, please believe me. Even though you're so uncomfortable right now, you are so special. Like, you are so special. Please just hold that, hold that in your heart. And she'll tell me she doesn't have a heart sometimes, but she's not this bad little person that she truly believes that she is, which makes me think a little bit borderline from all the trauma, remembering and remembering that she was dead at the bottom of a pond at age 5. Like, that's trauma, and as an adult, you could separate that. She couldn't, she doesn't remember now, but that uncomfortableness is still there for her. And she's so far ahead of her classmates in school, she's bored. And so this new phase of boredom has come. Like, I'm so bored, I'm so bored, I'm so bored. So I've got her reading, it's not this book, but it's a book like, well, that's not the right example. She can read books like this. And she's 7. And she can read them quickly. And she can remember them. So I know that she's here for, I hope to God she's here for more than just me, because that's a lot of guilt for how much pain she's in. But she's here for something big. Yeah, she's amazing. She doesn't have meltdowns anymore. If she gets uncomfortable, it's the body language that I see more, and she'll kind of, and I've had to kind of improvise, people say, don't let him hit the bed or the pillows. That just helps her with, knowing she can be violent. Well, rather than her hurting her little hand, I've taught her to hit a pillow, if she feels that frustrated. And I've taught her grounding techniques, sometimes when she gets like swept off her feet, she's in fight or flight, she's scared or uncomfortable because of the energy in the room, or someone's too sad and she can feel it, I'll be like, hey Jill, come here, come feel this, it feels really cool. What does it feel like, and she'll be like, oh, it feels smooth, and then I'll quickly move on to something else. Well, this feels different. What does this feel like, and about 50% of the time that will help her. The other 50% of the time, we just have to write it out. Thank you, Carms. Yeah, she is, and that's why, that's why I think what she meant when she was 2, by saying she came to me so I wouldn't be alone, was because she knew Colette was going to die. And that would have been the enemy if I didn't have someone so intensely special to take care of. Because if she was to lose her mom and go to any other person right now, I think she would kill herself. She would be so miserable and so, and maybe I shouldn't say that and put that out in the universe. The thoughts would come more. Her suffering and her uncomfortableness would come more if I wasn't here. So she saved my life after Colette died. I'm here because I have this amazing little person. And there's so much more, but it's all the same type of stuff. Just all of the memories and things that she said at such a young age. When I am able to look through my Facebook, I will find that video of her talking about the reading the books and some other videos that I have of her. I just can't. I have Colette's pictures and stuff put away right now. I just can't right now. But they're there, and I have them, and I will show you guys. I can't wait to show you, because really, my book is getting to the point of it's probably going to turn into like 3 different books. There's just too many things, too much trauma, too much unreal shit in my life to write in one book. Colette deserves her own book. Jill deserves her own book. Poppy and Ozzy, obviously. For those of you who have read my book thus far, isn't it crazy? If she signed up for this life, that means I signed up for this life. I signed up for a life to lose and bury 3 of my children and to go through so much trauma. It's just hard to explain, I guess. I know I explained all of it, but it's hard to comprehend. All of it is hard to comprehend. And I can't wait to get it all down, because then maybe it'll all make sense. I can make sense of a lot of it, but what the fuck? What the fuck? I feel like I'm 1,000 years exhausted. But I am so grateful for her. I'm so grateful for her. She was guiding me through life before I even knew I needed guided through life. And she knew it. And that's really heavy for a young child. So I'm trying to reverse the roles now. And I've even told her, let me take care of you, Jill. I am your mom. Even though you feel older, like I am still, in this life, your mom. And that's how I have to talk to her, because that's how she understands things. And we do this thing where I say, all right, give me all your worries. Give me all your worries. I'm taking them away. And we throw them out the window. We throw them out the window. We throw them out the window. When she gets overwhelmed with her thoughts of taking care of me, of the shadow people coming, of whatever it may be. And that gets her giggling, But she's so in tune. After Colette died, it was about a month after she died, so about 3 months ago, there was no joy in this household. And one night, I was tucking her in, and I kind of tickled her a little bit, and she started giggling. And then she started crying, and she said, Mommy, I really like it when you tickle me and play with me like I'm a kid. And I just, I tickled and played with her for hours that night, and I came to bed and just sobbed my eyes out. She's not only who she is, but has already had such a traumatic life. It's not fair. It's just not fair, and it's my job to end this generational trauma. And that's what I'm trying to do so hard. Even with grieving Colette, I have to. I don't really know who else is going to do it. And it can't be my kids. Holly's never really been that close with me. And, so yeah. Anyways, that's Jillian's story. It's pretty amazing. And I don't know if she'll remember again someday or not, but I will never forget. And she will have it all written down to read when she's older. That she used to be a father of 6 children and so many other things, and she remembers the experience of conception and being born. Well, she doesn't anymore, but she did. So many things she told me, and I was really worried about her. But it was just real, I think, it was just real. She really did remember. And it made her very uncomfortable. And I don't know if she was a human. I haven't talked about Ozzy. I have. Ozzy I've talked about, but I never mentioned his name before. He was the one when my abuser kicked me in the stomach when I was pregnant, and they had to take him out of me before he was born because he was not alive. So don't be sorry. I've never used his name until when Colette died. I started using his name because I don't know why, because it's like I've lost 3 children. You know, I need to honor all of them. I didn't know Ozzy, but I did see him. My one son. Ozzy was my son that died. My abuser killed him and my 1.5-year-old Poppy. Fairly local one. Ozzy is my son. Yeah. And you know, if you haven't heard my stories, you know, you wouldn't know. Most of my TikTok is me reading my blog, and you know, I was almost at the point of publishing my book when Colette died, and now I'm kind of just, I can't get into that grief that heavily again right now. So I'm doing these other parts of my life that I feel really drawn to share. I've been going through major awakening and meditating and all of these things, and I can meditate and still my mind and like get messages from my higher self. And that was an answer I got one night, is don't keep writing this book right now. You need to rest from this trauma. You need to grieve for your daughter. And so I heard, you know, to talk about my borderline. And so my borderline is on my YouTube channel, my borderline talk. And then to talk about Jillian. And then next in the lineup is my relationship with Brandon, because that is another unreal story. Like everything, I swear to God, is just unreal. And it makes me feel crazy sometimes, but it's so real because I'm living it. And then, you know, after that, we'll see what happens. I can't talk about Colette's death. I don't have all the details even. I don't even have her headstone yet. So that's just something I can't do. I can't do yet. It's just too fresh and too fucking painful, for one thing. She's my little twin, my best friend, my firstborn. But anyways, so yeah, Jillian is something special. Very, very, very special. And if anyone on here tonight has any insight on anything like this, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, because this isn't just her remembering. There's so many other things that went with it, you know. I would really, really love to hook up with someone and talk about if they've, oh, thank you, Tammy, if they've experienced anything like this themselves or their children or someone they know, because I was just like, wow, like, who am I raising? Who am I really raising here, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But she is beautiful and amazing inside and out, and I'm so thankful for her. I am so thankful for her. It kind of sucks being like, you know, I've been asked so many times, you know, oh, are you with your grandma? Because I'm like 45 with a 7-year-old, you know, and so that part's fun. But other than that, you know, I'm super thankful for her, and even all the struggles, you know, because it was an experience. It was something unreal that I've never experienced, and so yeah, that's my Jill. Her picture should be on here. Anyways, I am gonna get off here and get some rest, you guys. Still moving, and I'll be at the shop all day tomorrow working on my website and my art and trying to get some pieces sold. Oh, and I'm getting these shirts made now. Like, this is a piece of my art. And I found this amazing. It's not crinkly. It's part of the fabric. It's like amazing. So we're working on those things, and I guess now more than ever, I'm just doing things one at a time instead of having a million projects unfinished. So that's why I'm kind of stepping back from the book until I'm completely ready and able to share the message correctly and in the way it needs to be heard, because it's a huge message about my abuser. I mean, he essentially killed Colette, in my opinion, because she never got through the trauma of losing her sister and watching it. It was very, very raw and gory, and she was 13. So, in my opinion, he killed all three of them. And I'm not going to let it happen to my other two. That's why I'm here. Just trying to go strong, trying to stay strong, trying to get out of bed, trying to put a smile on my face and be grateful. I love you too, Michael. And you are too. We're definitely a match. Thank you for being on here tonight with me. I am going to get off here. Take a deep breath, go smoke a cigarette. And that's my story about Jillian. Again, I would love any feedback. Because I have no idea, other than she remembered for a while and she doesn't anymore. What I don't like is how uncomfortable she is. And that's what I need to figure out and learn how to help her with. So you guys have a good night, and love and light to you. And I will still get on here and do a meditation with you. I am working on it. And my YouTube channel is exactly the same. It's Felonies and Poppy Seeds, no spaces. And it's so new, it doesn't just pop up. You got to type in the whole thing, Felonies and Poppy Seeds. Just like it is on here. So thank you guys for being here. And I'll see you at my next talk. And don't forget to smile beautiful. Talk to you soon, Michael.